quick. 10 Cloverfield Lane, we talked about this one. A tier. The only Cloverfield movie I've watched. And I'll be damned if John Goodman doesn't scare the piss out of me. Who knew he could be such a good villain? I didn't. But he's great. So well worth it. And it's definitely claustrophobic. It's one of those movies again where you just feel confined with them, and I think that's a good thing. But yeah, he's something else. He's one of those, I think if it weren't for him and his ability to creep you the fuck out in that role, I don't think this movie would have done as good. I think it's one of these where it was reliant on something to be memorable, and he did that. So we're just gonna leave that there. Let's see. 28 Weeks Later, I have not seen that one. I haven't seen any of the sequels. Have not seen 47 Meters Down. Have not watched the ABCs of Death. I'll stop on it. I never watch it. Alien, S tier. That's a done deal. It was groundbreaking for its time. You have the beautiful, horrible alien design. You have a cat. Sigourney Weaver doing Sigourney Weaver things. Really good practical effects again. So I would say, with how much influence this movie has had, on top of all the positives that go towards it, it's gonna have to be S tier. Uh, just beautiful film work. Even though it's dark, you still know what's happening. Oh, very nice. That's a hell of a Mother's movie, too, if you think about it. But yes, that'll be an S tier movie. American Psycho. I'm not sure how I want to do this one. I feel like it's a teeter totter. I feel like it's playing between a B and a B and a A. Because it is a slasher. It's got the little twisty twist about, is it all in his head or is it not? But it's some really fucked up shit that is in his head if that's the case. But there's also all the fucking fluff about Wall Street. I hate that shit. By the way, I have read the book. Don't do that. Don't do it. The book is very much heavy with the talk about, like, literally, there are pages where the character, Patrick Bateman, is breaking down everybody's clothes by the material and who it's made by and the color and this and that. And I'm just like, I get why. I get why that's happening, but I cannot sit through this shit. I managed to read through the book. It was interesting, but I couldn't do it again. No. And the movie cuts a lot of that back, but it still very much does it too. And I'm just like, no. Hmm. Annabelle. Okay. I didn't know if we were going to get to it, but we did. So, do we take into account? Do we take it into account that the original Annabelle doll does not look anything like that? Did I see the sequel? No. About to American Psycho? No. Because isn't it a girl, if I'm not mistaken? So if we're taking into account that this is not Annabelle, and I understand you couldn't probably do the real Annabelle because it's licensed, it's Raggedy Ann, right? That is very much a brand. I know that. But did we have to go the route of completely supposed to be terrifying? Did that have to be done? To me, the cuter it is, probably the creepier it's going to be when it turns out that it's a murder doll, right? So off the top, I had no interest in this movie. And then, of course, it is it's a Warren movie. There's a lot of things detracting from this movie for me. It's shot well. I can say that it's shot well, but it's a C tier. I can't. I'm gonna be far more strict on stuff like that. Bleh, bleh. Just no. I haven't seen Annihilation. I've seen mixed reviews. Some people love it. Some people seem to not like it. I wouldn't say hate, but they don't understand it. I have seen shots, scenes, sheens of it. I didn't know where I was going with that, but I know like about the bear. So I've seen it. I've seen those types of things, and it looks interesting. It does seem to pop up on freebie stuff a lot, so I may get around to watching that at some point. But for now, I haven't seen it. Behind the Mask. They're actually making a sequel. I would say it's an A tier. It's gonna be winding up to be a low A, I think, but I would say it is A. Uh but like I said, I'm pretty sure they're shooting a sequel. Yeah, Behind the Mask, the Rise of Leslie Vernon. It's a mockumentary about a person who's aspiring to be a serial killer. Very much, obviously, he's wearing a mask. So it does a good job of kind of analyzing the inspiration from like slasher films and breaking them down into what they are with their tropes and everything. So it's very meta. And I feel like it does a good job at being meta. So I do recommend watching this if you have it's any type of interest in that kind of thing. Never watched Bird Box. I know that was kind of a Netflix thing. Never watched it. Another one of those, you can't see, can't speak, following that whole idea. Haven't seen Black Xmas, weirdly enough. You would think I would have. I haven't. Blade. Why is this horror? Is Blade considered horror? Apparently it is. It's action horror. Okay. I learned something. I thought it was just action. I mean, I pulled it up. It officially falls. It's Marvel. It is a Marvel movie, but they do actually file it under horror slash action. Um, as a horror movie, I don't know if I would say it's super high up, but I love Blade. It's gonna be A tier. I really love the Blade trilogy as a whole. Wesley Snipes is beautiful for the role. I know they were looking to remake the movie. You're not going to remake it without Wesley Snipes, and you're really not going to remake it without Chris Christopherson. So let's not even go there. But yes, you have Wesley Snipes and Chris Christopherson. It was a very early Marvel movie, right? I just liked it. I thought I liked the vampire angle. I liked the Daywalker angle. It was something a little bit different. And then you get Wesley Snipes being kind of stoic, but then he throws out a fucking one-liner. It just happens. The sequel has Regis in it, always looking like he needs to be fucking showering. I swear that man needs to just keep a shower on him 24/7. He always looks like he needs a shower. And then Blade Trilogy, of course, that was kind of actually weirdly my first introduction to Blade, and then I had to go back and watch the other two. But you get Ryan Reynolds. You get triple fucking H carrying around a tiny Pomeranian. That in and of itself is worth watching because it's fucking hilarious. But yeah, even after going back and having to watch the first one again, I really like Blade. And I do recommend the series, the trilogy, if you've never seen it. It's fun action with some vampires and a half vampire. Um, Here's the Blob remake. It's a B movie. It's your standard B movie for sure. A little bit more to it, you know. They went a little bit more heavy because obviously we're now in I think the 80s. But it still looks kind of jank. Still kind of boring overall. It's just giant gelatinous blob. Alien gelatinous blob. Yeah. The boy. I want to go C tier. It's okay. It's kind of here with Annabelle. So the boy technically is kind of based around the idea of Robert the doll. That's kind of where the inspiration came from. So it's another fucking doll movie. This one, you know, family has this doll, they treat it like their own son, they hire a babysitter, weird shit goes on, come to find out their real son actually lives in the walls of the house. It's a whole thing. It's okay. Like they give you the creepy vibes, but it's not anything. Yeah. Not anything special. Haven't seen The Breed, Cannibal Holocaust. This is probably going to upset some people. It it's found footage. Yes. Sorta. Early shit. It does a lot of stuff. It does a lot of stuff. It does a lot of wrong stuff. It also does a lot of right things. So, you know how we had the Blair Witch? We talked about this earlier, where they did the whole marketing campaign where it wasn't apparent if these people had actually filmed themselves and then something bad had happened to them, to the point that the mother of the girl was getting sympathy cards. Like legitimately people thought the girl was gone. And of course they came out and was like, "No, we're all alive. We're all just actors, blah blah blah." Hannibal, oh my god. Cannibal Holocaust kind of does that too, where people thought these folks were dead to the point that the director was brought into court to prove that they were alive because he had kept them hidden for that reason. That's what he wanted. He wanted people to think they were actually gone. So had to prove that in court. You know, they showed up. Hey, no, we're all fine. We're all fine here. Thank you. How are you? Right? But they did some really not good things. It was very exploitative. They did actually kill real animals because at this point in time, there was no animal protection agency to monitor animal use within movies. This movie kind of helped spur that. Uh, so yeah, but I can't really say it's a good movie, but it was definitely a shock movie of the time. And I think that's what caught a lot of people's attention more than anything else. So I'm going to leave it there. Child's Play 2. I mean, Chucky's back. We get even more Brad Dourif doing Chucky stuff. Is it better or as good as the first one? Yeah, exactly. And so the whole thing was exploitative as hell. So, but at the time, that was kind of okay. You know, you could get away with that. I'm trying to debate. Is I think you could probably argue Child's Play 2. It's it's a higher. I'm gonna say it's a higher A or B movie than the original. Mainly because at this point they figured out, oh, here's what people liked about the original Chucky, which was Brad Dourif. So we just get more Brad Dourif, doing Chucky things and saying some out of pocket stuff. And that's all anybody really wants, right? They want Chucky saying things and laughing maniacally while murdering people in bizarre ways because he's a fucking doll. So I think I would probably put this one higher because Brad's a little bit more into it at this point, but we still haven't jumped the shark per se. So I think we're gonna go with a little bit higher on B than probably what the first one was. The Collector, haven't watched it. Heard it's good. I just haven't gotten around to it. And the first one is very hard to find now. There's a sequel, but I don't want to watch the sequel. I want to find the first one, but it's getting harder to find to watch, which is odd, but there you are. The Conjuring 2. This is the one that deals. This is where we start bringing in. Again, we're probably not going to leave it here, but I just want to be able to look at it. So this is where we bring in the fucking nun. This is where we get Valak, which then has its own fucking spinoff, because God knows we don't have enough blue-tinted, foggy horror movies all from the same studio person. So we get Valak, we get more Warrens. This is the Enfield haunting, which was a real scenario that happened. It's not wasn't actually a ghost, but it is based around events that took place in real life. The Warrens, again, were actually minimally involved. They showed up for a couple of days and left. The movie is shown as them being highly involved with it. That is not what happened. And they wrote about it, made their money off of it, and the people in England were just kind of left on their own devices, but it did come out eventually that, yes, the girl was faking it. We get Patrick Wilson singing, which is cool. Again, my first introduction to him was Raoul. And he was singing there too. But again, at this point, I was Patrick Wilsoned out. I was tired of that man being in everything. What has he been up to? Because I haven't really seen him in anything lately. He is 52 years old. Okay. I know they just did one more Conjuring movie, so I'm assuming he's in that one, obviously, because he's Ed. But beyond that, what has he done? At least recently. That is not a Conjuring James Wan movie. That's the big question. Ew. Oh, okay. He's done quite a few things, it looks like. Okay. Oh, apparently he's in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. There's that. He's got full. Oh, he's in a. Okay. Interesting. Apparently he's in an episode of The Last of Us. And he is in a Cape Fear TV series. I didn't even know they made a TV series for Cape Fear. Interesting. So apparently he is still doing stuff. Looks like he is still doing a lot of horror. That seems to be his kind of forte at this point. Until they make another Insidious movie, I guess that's what he's going to be doing. Conjuring 2, it'll probably stay low B. I said it might not, but I think it will. It's still got some good visuals. It's still telling the story as it was told. But again, it's all bullshit. Coraline. I don't think it can be S tier, but I'm going to put extremely high A tier. And I'm going to have to do that in part due to who wrote it. Unfortunately. If you know, you know. We're not going to get into that, but that leaves a nasty taste in your mouth when you see that. The stop motion animation, always love that. It's fun to see. It's very rare now for obvious reasons, but it was very well done in this. Of course, we got Keith David. He's the cat. Always, always get bonus points for Keith David being involved because I love Keith David. We love our Papa Anderson. Other Mother, amazing. I love the Other Mother. And it does have some actual genuinely creepy sequences to it where I can see where kids probably who parents let kids watch this who weren't in the know, and there are probably some kids that has some nightmares at night. So I think we're gonna go pretty high on Coraline. Again, I don't think it's an S tier. I don't think we can do that at this point, but it's definitely still a good story. You just gonna have to take it for what it is without involving who's behind it. And I know that's very hard to do, and a lot of people don't agree with that, and that is fine. At this point, it's already there. It's made. I already own it. I owned it for years before all the stuff came out. Unfortunate that it did, but I will still watch it because, again, it's still just a good, solid movie. The team that did the stop motion still deserves their laurels for doing that because it's so well done. Creepshow 2, I actually haven't seen Creepshow 2 because it's not as good as Creepshow 1. Haven't seen Dark Water, know what it's about, didn't really give a shit about the premise, so left it alone. The Dead Zone movie, I'd really say high C tier. It's not one I remember very well. I remember seeing it. I didn't read the book. This is one of those I actually didn't read the book. The TV series, however, was pretty good when they decided to flip it over to doing that. Devil, actually, funny story. Let's see, this was a 2010 film. So, if you didn't know, this is a Shyamalan film. It is a Shyamalan film that I have not watched. Mainly because I can't find it. It's been very hard. I've tried to find it, and I can't find his version. There's all sorts of movies with the name Devil, but I can't find this one. Maybe eventually, with at least not that's free, because I don't want to pay for it. Almost everywhere you got to pay for it, and I don't want to do that. I just want to watch it. So I can't grade this one. I know it's about people being trapped in the elevator, and one of them is the devil, and it's one of those types of, paranoia movies. That's all. Devil's Rejects. Haven't watched. I don't really watch Rob Zombie films. I did wind up watching the Halloween versions of his movies. Nub's a huge Rob Zombie fan, music and movies. His style of movie making just doesn't work for me. I did confirm that via the Halloween series. It's just not my thing, y'all. I know it's supposed to be one of those was it House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, and Three Went to Hell, something like that. It's like a trilogy, and I can appreciate the cult following behind it, but they're not my types of movies, so I don't watch them. Doctor Sleep. I mentioned this earlier when we were talking about The Shining, or no, Mike Flanagan rather. I appreciate Ewan McGregor. I appreciate that they had to try and do some fixins. Because they're basing things off the events of the original movie. Which is interesting because the book Doctor Sleep is obviously a direct sequel to The Shining. Problem being is in the book The Shining, Halloran doesn't die. Halloran actually saves Wendy and Danny. Wendy's got a broken back because she got the shit beat out of her. Jack actually did get her with a baseball bat. So she's beaten and bruised up, but Halloran actually winds up saving them. In the book, Jack, after chasing Danny down, or the darkness that has enveloped him, that is the building, realizes that the boiler hasn't been worked on because you're supposed to release the steam to prevent the boiler from blowing up essentially, and that hasn't been done. So the entity that has taken him over makes Jack go back to try and relieve the boiler, and then Jack himself manages to overcome the entity and lets the boiler blow up. The Overlook blows up, and that supposedly is going to get rid of the whole situation. And then Halloran takes Wendy and Danny back down the mountain, and he takes them back to where he stays in Florida, where he works at a hotel in Florida, and he helps them heal, and they stay there with him. In the meantime, he also teaches Danny how to close his mind off into boxes so that he can have silence as needed, or if he does need to, if there's like something in particular he needs, he can pull it out, right? So they had to retcon a lot of that because obviously Halloran's dead. So you get flashbacks where I think Danny's talking to him in the form of The Shining. You get some weird shit with CG and Jack Torrance with some of that where they, Danny winds up back at the Overlook as an adult. And then instead of Lloyd, it's his dad who's the bartender. Like, they swap roles depending on who died last. I guess that's an interesting take. Again, it's a Flanagan film. It has that typical Flanagan feel and Flanagan look without having to pay attention. A lot of the problem boils down to, one, like I said, I never finished the book, and I was listening to it via audiobook. I wasn't even reading the goddamn thing. That book goes on way too long. There's stuff that could have been cut out that didn't need to be there, and they decided not to. And that's fine. Whatever. But I just couldn't. I couldn't keep going. I literally stopped about 50% in. I can go pull it. It's like 44 hours in, and there's like 83 hours worth of total book reading. It's something like that. So literally, I got halfway through and I'm like, when the fuck is this gonna end? This is just happening. Things are just happening to happen, and it's going on way too long. So, didn't care. And I didn't care to watch the movie. Nub got me to watch the movie, actually. And it kind of suffers a little bit from the same thing, where it just seems to go on. Now, they did do some really good changes, though, to try and compensate for some stuff, because you can't make Rose the Thorn like she does in the book. There's no way to do it. She's got a very distinct description, which gives her a very distinct look in your mind's eye. And there's no actress that can do that in real life. So they had to kind of compromise on it. Whatever. It does have Carol Stroiken in it. A lot of people know him from all sorts of stuff. One interesting thing about it is the original Danny is in the movie. He is a random spectator. His name is Danny Lloyd. And yeah, he's just listed as a spectator in the movie, but that's your OG Danny. So that's cool. But yeah, it's okay. The only thing that really saves it for me is the baseball kid scene. That was an added scene. That's not actually in the book. And it's the fact that if you read about it, like the way the kid was acting, he had the other people worried. Like he was going ham, and then they cut to make sure he was okay, and he just bopped right up. Was like, yeah, I'm fine. I love shit like that. Kid actors are wonderful for things of that nature. So that scene kind of saves it a little bit, but yeah, it just does too much and goes on just a little bit too long for my liking. So it gets into the C's. I haven't seen Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. I don't like Dreamcatcher. I have DNF'd the book, and I have DNF'd the movie because it was just as bad as the book. That was my keyboard. Moving my keyboard around for my elbows, and sorry. Because I'm leaning forward at this point. Dreamcatcher, I hated the book as much as I read it. Dreamcatcher is a Stephen King novel, which really and truly, if he hadn't killed off Richard Bachman with a brain tumor, would be a Bachman book based on the descriptors in it. I mean, it's got aliens that blow out people's assholes when they leave their body. You know, I don't need that in my life. But that's essentially what it's about. And then the movie just cuts out so much of the book. I mean, for obvious reasons, you can't do everything, but I don't know. The way they did it, it just makes it so much dumber. So, no. Bad movie. Bad movie all around. Haven't seen Eden Lake. Evil Dead 2, that's basically Evil Dead 1, but with a better budget, as Nub has said, and I do agree. And at this point, Bruce Campbell has figured it out, as I would put it. He knows exactly what he needs to do and how to do it. He's great. Of course, you get all your classic Raimi shots, things like that. And this is your quintessential Evil Dead movie at this point. So it'll stay up. You get a lot of I use the word iconic a lot, but in horror, that's really what you're looking for your S tiers are things that set a standard. And this movie definitely did and gave us a lot of cultural things that people still will reference, and that's a big part of it in that regard. This is the remake. It's a very low B. It really, really didn't need it. But they wanted to start everything over, so there we are. It is what it is. And now they're making all sorts of sequels that are terrible. But that's not its fault. That's why it was made, but it's not its fault. Exorcism of Emily Rose. Possession movie. Good possession movie. I really like this possession movie. It's an A. And essentially it is about a girl. It is loosely based on a real life situation. It was a girl out of Germany, I believe, who was thought to be possessed by a devil or a demon. And in the course of doing the exorcism, she died eventually due to starvation, I believe, malnutrition. And her parents, and I believe the priest involved, were cited for at least manslaughter, if not murder. Something along those lines. My brain is so tired. Like, y'all don't understand. I got done with with doing my job, and I've been going for 6 hours talking nonstop now. This is insane. But yeah, it's a really good possession movie, roughly based around a real life scenario that did happen. Now, whether or not you want to believe the girl was possessed, up to you. I don't necessarily believe in possession in that regard, so But that is what it's loosely based on. It's really well done. It is creepy. The girl, the actress, there is a part where she contorts and she's double jointed, so she can do some really creepy shit just on her own, and it is very weird looking. Another big recommend. I do watch this one kind of not yearly, but pretty frequently. It does, of course, touch on themes of religion. So if you're not really big into religious stuff, or if you've had a problem with some deep religious stuff, it could potentially have that effect on you that's not really good. But that kind of goes hand in hand with the idea of demonic possession. So take that as you will. Exorcist 3. S tier, for sure. We don't really talk about Exorcist 2. I'm all for bad movies, but that is a horrible movie. Got James Earl Jones in it, so yeah, that's the only redeeming quality it has. Exorcist 3, however, is based on a book by William Peter Blatty, who also wrote the original Exorcist, called Legion. And he wound up doing the movie because he didn't really want anybody else or trust anybody else to write the movie, and didn't want to work with anybody else who wasn't willing to let him have that control. So he took over. It is a surreal fucking movie, for sure. There's a nurse that has a very distinct look, of which you would recognize from Silent Hill with Lisa. You have Brad Dourif doing a hell of a good job in acting. You actually see his face in this one. So you get actual Brad Dourif. Oh, he's so good. And then there's the infamous carp monologue towards the beginning, which is actually in the book, by the way. What's his name? George C. Scott as the detective. That was a part of the original investigation from the first Exorcist movie. And of course, he and Father Shit Geyer. Yeah, is that right? Or am I thinking about the wrong one? Give me a second. Sometimes my brain just needs a refresh. Yeah, Dyer. Okay. I'm pretty sure it was Dyer. The one who survived, but was friends with the one who died. Like, they commiserated over that, and so you have their dynamic. Um, there's a cameo. There's several weird cameos in that movie. You have a Fabio cameo that was planned, that's in a scene. You also have a random Larry King cameo that was not planned. He just happened to be eating where they were shooting that day. Don't ask. But yes, this is a hell of a movie. It loosely ties back to the original Exorcist through those connections that I gave you earlier, but it is its own thing in a way. There are two versions of it. There's the theatrical release version, the one I would recommend, and then there is a director's cut that you can watch. It's a little jarring. We actually watched it not long ago. And the reason it's a little jarring is you'll have like the very clean, obviously edited for theaters release footage, and then it's like just popped in raw footage, right? Where it hasn't been matched to the aspect ratio, the audio's not been adjusted. It's very weird how they did it. But the ending sucks in that one. The ending that they went with for theatrical release, much better. But overall, again, George C. Scott sells it really well, but Brad Dourif takes the spotlight and brings this movie to a much higher level. But highly say S tier. Fear.com. Again, it's during that whole phase of the internet horror. It's weird. It's okay-ish. It's tropey. Whatever. I still haven't seen any of the Fear Street movies, so those are all gone. Final Destination 2, A tier. This is the one that gave most of us of the generation our fears. All the Final Destinations are good in their own way. Some of them are just corny, and that's fine. They're allowed to be corny. That's what they're meant for. But this one gave everybody the trauma of we don't want to ride behind log trucks anymore. So for that alone, it's an A tier. But at this point, obviously, they knew what people wanted. They had settled into the formula out of the first movie. You still get Tony Todd, he's in all of them. So when they got their groove, the second one's really where that happened. It and they escalated it pretty easily with that whole opening sequence. So I would say it's definitely an A. After that, they start declining. They still have good kills, but the rest of it's pretty loosey goosey. Haven't seen the fourth kind. That that's gonna go there. I fell asleep with this on. Nub wanted me to watch it because he had seen it, and he's like, "You need to watch it." I'm like, "Fine," and I fell asleep. Yeah, I remember that. Listen, we actually watched the whole thing. We have the only part of the series we haven't watched now is Bloodlines. Um, we're gonna skip over a few of these. That's the remake. I still haven't watched it. Haven't seen Frozen, haven't seen The Gate, haven't seen From Beyond. Grave Encounters, here we go. We're gonna say B movie. Uh, it's found footage. I love the spoofing of Ghost Adventures. The lead guy does a really good job imitating Zach Baggins. It's got your typical tropey found footage, ghosty horror shit going on, so. But I enjoyed it. I do watch this one kind of routinely, just because it is what it is. Obviously, I like making fun of the ghost hunting situation, especially the one. But it does have its tropes that kind of take away from it, where you're just like, oh, that happened. I expected that to happen. But I feel like it's a very solid found footage film, for sure. Haven't seen Green Inferno. It's kind of like, along the same vein of Cannibal Holocaust, but yeah. Season of the Witch. It's a B movie. For sure. Is it Michael Myers? Hell no. But this is the direction that initially Carpenter wanted to go. He wanted to do, okay, we killed off Michael, we finished that, let's do the rest of an anthology series where each movie would be its own thing. So you get Season of the Witch. It does give us a little ditty of a jingle that just gets, stuck in your head. And then, they melt kids' faces into worms and bugs and stuff by using a fragment of Stonehenge. It's a fucking weird premise, but I like it because it is different and weird. And I feel like these days more people do appreciate this movie for what it is, even though it's not Michael Myers. But I feel like it's gained a lot more fans and respect in later years than what it had when it started. So I feel like it's a solid B movie. It's this. What was your first time? That's a hell of an introduction. This is the Rob Zombie Halloween. Yes. Okay. Uh, how do I want to go about this one? Girl, I watched it. I'm not big on Rob Zombie's movies. It's his own interpretation, right? I'm gonna say probably low B. It's got moments for sure. It's not my personal favorite, but we'll leave it there. I know a lot of people are very much more into the Rob Zombie films and Rob Zombie stuff, but it's just not my thing. And I'm not a huge fan of his take on Halloween, but I'll give it its props. Haven't seen Hatchet, haven't seen Hellfest. Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, that's an S tier. I know you just mentioned earlier, this is an uptick from the original Hellraiser. You get a lot more crazy shit going on. You get introduced to Leviathan, which is a whole other thing. You get the crazy ass doctor. There's just a hot mess of stuff going on in this one. And it's also before we start getting into the really bizarre Cenobites. We're still keeping it pretty close to our core group. It's when you start getting things like CD Head that you're just like, the fuck is happening? So 2 is still pretty enclosed with how many Cenos there are. Pinhead, of course, now front and center. They figured out, oh, people like this one. And then we get Doug Bradley just being, amazing. So I would say S tier. Again, if you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. It is a direct sequel. It kind of does a Halloween thing where it is a direct sequel to the first one, and our main character is in a hospital. So, worth watching. House of a Thousand Corpses, I mentioned that earlier. Haven't really seen it, so won't speak on it. Invisible Man, again, gotta give the props to the originals. Doing the effects in that one, very interesting given the time frame that it was in. Of course, we've got multiple remakes and spin-offs and spoofs and things of that nature, so Again, it's done its thing. Well, you just gonna go right here. This is the one that made up the pillow at the TV. And he did it at a specific point, which is where, you know, I had that discussion earlier about people spoofing that one part in The Thing. You know, you gotta be fucking kidding. Yeah, they pulled that shit in this movie too. And at that point, up through a pillow at the TV because he was like, are you for real right now?" I'm like, "Yeah, they are for real right now." So yeah, y'all already know I don't like the first part. I don't like the second part even more. So we're gonna keep right on going and leave that the fuck alone because I don't want to talk about it no more. I haven't seen Jack Frost. I actually haven't seen Jennifer's Body. I know it's kind of in the line of I Spit on Your Grave. It's a revenge thing with a female lead. Just, I don't know. Not into it. Haven't seen Komodo. Haven't seen Krampus. Don't care. Here's gonna be an interesting one. The Last Exorcism. It's gonna wind up being a low A. Okay. So I've seen the first one, I've seen the second one, and they both wound up having the same issue and reaction. A lot of people enjoyed the movie up until the end, at which point they're like, oh my god, what the fuck did they do? This is a hidden camp film, is what it is. So it is found footage. 100% is following a man who is going to go do his last exorcism. Now, he admits that doing exorcisms is all, you know, smoke and mirrors essentially, and he shows how he sets up all his stuff. But they're going into Louisiana, and it's like a hardcore religious family, and come find out, no shit really do be hitting the fan here, and it boils down to like a cult situation. But the movie, yeah, a lot of people didn't like how the movie ended because they're like, this is so dumb. Why is it ending like this? And then the second one does the exact same thing. And a lot of people had the exact same reaction. I'm like, you don't understand. The people who did this, they're making a campy movie. It's just that it doesn't climax to the full campiness of it till you hit that ending. And then you realize, oh my God, this is what we've been doing. But I would say watch Last Exorcism if you haven't seen it. Again, it is found footage, but it's an interesting take on everything. Especially since you do have like them talking about how people would do a exorcism and try and convince people that, you know, they needed one with tricks, basically magician's tricks. And it also is a good example of what happens with disillusionment, especially from like a clergy member. And I think that's a really big part of it. So it's a fun thing to watch, interesting thing to watch, especially with as you get closer to the end, all the things that start occurring. Essentially, again, not going to try and spoil too much of it, but there you go. Haven't seen Let Me. This one I've seen a lot less of, but that's okay. Haven't seen Let Me In. Haven't seen Maniac. Have seen The Meg. It's a B movie. I love me a good shark movie. I love me a good Megalodon movie. I own the Meg and the Meg 2. I love them both. They're both fun. Those are fun movies. I wouldn't necessarily call them horror, but obviously following in the line of Jaws, much bigger than Jaws. I get it. But I'm saying solid movie for if for your underwater horror shark thing. So, yeah. Also, funny story. They have determined that Megs actually didn't look like great whites in any way, shape, or form. They're actually more in line to, I think it's a blue shark, where they're much more like torpedo shaped. Still huge, but not great white shaped. So, fun thing. Yeah. Haven't seen Meat Train. This is the remake of My Bloody Valentine. Haven't seen that either. Needful Things. Ooh, that's an A movie. Um, Based off a Stephen King book. I have read the book. It is a big book. It's up there with It. About it centers around a well-known character, actually, Alan Pangborn. You'll see him in a few Stephen King stuff. But this is a story about what happens when the devil comes to town and opens up an antique shop called Needful Things. What is that man's name? It's Max von Sydow, which is hilarious because last time we spoke about him, he was a priest. Now he's the devil. But he had, for what does, I usually can remember his name, and now I can't. What was the name of Needful Things? Leland Gaunt. That's it. He plays Leland Gaunt, who owns an antique store. And of course, there's a whole twist to the whole antique store thing, and people who want something out of there and how he handles all of that. Very good. Again, I don't want to spoiler too much because this is one I would recommend definitely watching, and I probably would recommend the book. They did, from my remembrance of it anyway. I haven't watched or read the book in forever, but from my remembrance, it's fairly close, or as close as they can make it. Between book and movie, so should watch, is good, highly recommend. Haven't seen the New York Ripper, haven't seen Demons. We got Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. We didn't see a Part 2. I guess someone's biased over here. Jesus Dream Warriors, it's an A. It's definitely an A. It's your direct sequel to the first one, with Nancy coming back. We also have all the kids in the psych ward, which introduces us to Patricia Arquette as a part of everything. Also gives us a badass Dream Warrior song by Dokken. And this is where Freddy really starts picking up on the quips. We start seeing a little bit of that in 2. Again, 2's not on here. A lot of people don't like 2. That's fine. I think it's entertaining and amusing for what it is. 3 is where they're like, Freddy's gonna become a quipper. And he just, has one-liners out the wazoo. Is he killing somebody? He's saying something smarmy. He's saying something smartass. And that really is where we start seeing it, is in this movie. So, it's up there. It's good. Also has a very small part with Larry Fishburne. Yeah. Uh-huh. Young Larry Fishburne. You'll see him in this. But yeah, it'll be higher up there than some of the other sequels just because it's a good, if you're looking for like a canonical timeline to watch Nightmare, it's Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, and then Nightmare on Elm Street New Nightmare. That's what I call the Nancy trilogy, and that is your canon line, and then you have all this weird shit in the middle after 3. But yes, we'll leave that there. Haven't watched it. I think I'm pretty sure I haven't watched it. I think I still have refused to watch it. I don't want to watch it. No, no. I got made to. I think I finally acquiesced one day and wound up watching it. It goes down here. I have not seen One Missed Call. I have seen Ouija. We're gonna go kind of a B movie area. Officially, they can use the word Ouija. It's passable. I like a good Ouija board horror, I'm not gonna lie. Everything around people using Ouija boards amuses me. I have a giant desk mat that is a Ouija board. I don't care. Now, do I play with my own Ouija board? Hell no. There's a weird stain on my actual Ouija board, and I don't know what the fuck it is. So we ain't playing them games. But I appreciate a good horror movie based around it. I have the sequel as well. Honestly, I think the sequel's better in its own little cheesy way, but Ouija, Ouija 2 are kind of your cheesy movies, but they're enjoyable for that reason. So it'll stay there. Pet Sematary remake. It's a C. We watched it. I don't really remember much about it. Yeah. It was not, it was one of those things where it's like, I'd rather just watch the original. Why am I not watching the original? You don't want a movie to do that. You don't want it to either remind you of another movie you'd prefer to watch, or, you know, or just go, hey, why are we not watching the original? Phantasm 2. I'm a bad horror movie person. I own the entire Phantasm series, but I haven't watched all of them. So the only one I've ever actually seen is one. So I've got to leave the sequels out of it. There's the original Piranha. Still haven't seen that. Predator. Not my cup of tea. I recognize kind of what it's done for horror. Although to me, again, it's more action than horror. Uh, it did give us, all sorts of other Predator, Alien versus Predator. I don't know. It's up there just because it does have, excuse me, a lot of cultural significance. A lot of stuff did come from that, but to me, it's not my thing. And again, to me, it's not even horror. It's just an action movie. But I get it. It's done a lot, so it can stay in A tier. Puppet Master. This is one that teeters. It's a really dumb concept, and it only gets dumber as the sequels happen. But I'm going to leave it, I think, at high C tier for now. It does have moments with it that are decent, but overall, again, it's a dumb premise with creepy dolls, creepy puppets, and I don't care. Quarantine, haven't watched that one yet. Ready or Not. Again, we're kind of looking at our B movies here. It's okay. Again, I don't know if I would consider it horror. I know they just have that it already released or it's about to release the sequel that has Elijah Wood in it, of all things. But yeah, I did watch it. It wasn't anything special. And then, hey, look, Quarantine and Wreck together, which I haven't watched either one of them, so that's fine. This is probably gonna piss some people off. I don't like the Resident Evil series. I don't like the movies, and I especially don't like the first movie. The Resident Evil movies are all fanfics that Paul W.S. Anderson made so he could stick his wife into sexy costumes and let her be a lead role. Sorry. That's how I look at it. On top of that, they also stole a whole idea out of the original Cube movie with the laser grid that will chop you up into little bitty cubes. Guess who did that first? Cube. They did that with wires. They actually made it cooler. To me, the wires are cooler. They had to be so sharp that they just chopped this man up and diced him into little bitty pieces. And then you get to see that happen in slow motion. It's really cool. They did it and did it worse. And for that, I will never forget them. So this might make some people mad. I'm actually gonna put the original Resident Evil lower than I am in the original Silent Hill movie. At least I got some entertainment out of the Silent Hill movie for other reasons. I just didn't like the original Resident Evil. I also may be biased because I watched it on a broke down bus. It was not a good time. But then I saw that and it made me mad. So it's a high C tier. I get it for a lot of people, but I don't give a fuck. I haven't seen Rogue. Again, I know it's a creature film. Saw 2. It's going right here with Resident Evil. Saw, and oddly enough, they both stole something out of Cube. If you ever watch Cube and then watch Saw 2, or vice versa, what you're going to see is a very similar group dynamic that's being used between all the different people in the group composition and in how they all are, their personalities are. It's almost beat for beat the exact same thing out of Cube. I remember sitting and watching Saw 2 and seeing that happen, and I'm like, what? Did we really have to copy over that dynamic? Now, whether or not that was a true copy, I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those things that writers see as a very common dynamic for tension. But it was just very bizarre to see all of that happen. And I'm just like, this is literally how Cube wrote their characters. And now Saw 2 is doing it. And I give no shits. But I did, again, I've watched the entire series up until the most recent one. So, yeah, I get it. The twist, twist is okay. Whoa. But, no. No. Haven't seen Scooby-Doo on Zombie. What the fuck is this doing on here? Actually, is this the one? And this may be the only reason I even give a shit about it. Hold on. Yeah, this is the 1998 film. But there's a reason I'm pulling this up, because I think... Give me 1 second. Obviously, Billy West took over as Shaggy, but that's not who I'm looking for. There it is. Yeah, alright, I was right. I'm going to rank this higher than what I probably should. It's going to be a very high B. Between all the standard VAs that are in it, that are in most of the Scooby-Doo stuff, Mark Hamill's in it. I'm fairly certain this is one that Mark Hamill plays a character, and he does. Snakebite Scruggs. So it's gonna get some higher props than it probably would otherwise, just because there's Mark Hamill doing a voice. But very odd. I don't know why that's on here. Scream 2, I would say that's S tier. It's another one of those where I feel like the sequel really outperformed the first one, because the first one got people in, and then the second one just upped it enough that they went crazy. So they came into their own, understood what the deal was, and we had a better sequel. Haven't seen See No Evil. I know it's got WWE's Kane in it. Don't care. Shutter Island, haven't seen it. Not really a Leo DiCaprio fan. I usually don't watch much with him in it. Same with Tom Cruise. Sleepaway Camp, we're gonna go probably a B movie. Subject matter's a little testy, especially in this day and age, which I definitely understand that. But I do think, as far as like a twist is concerned, most people probably wouldn't see it coming if you didn't know about it in advance. And it very much kind of had an impact moving forward in the horror community. So we'll leave that there. Slumber Party Massacre, haven't seen that. That looks like it belongs with Puppet Combo. Splice, I don't want to see it. I've seen certain scenes out of it, and no thank you. I have not seen the original Suspiria. I do need to do that at some point. That one's getting hard to find now too. It's been slowly replaced by the remake at this point. This is my all-time favorite found footage movie. We're going very high S tier with it. Taking a Deborah Logan it's a hell of a movie. It does touch on some stuff that can be a little bit triggering, like dementia in older people, which for me, it does sometimes get to me because I have lived that existence and it's hard to do. But overall, it is a possession movie. So I guess spoilerish right there, but it is a found footage / possession movie, and it's very well done. Very good tension. You're not quite sure what the fuck is happening with everything, and of course you're watching it from a perspective of someone paying attention to a person who's got dementia. And again, if you've ever lived that, weird things can happen in that realm of reality because of how dementia works. But then you get to the end and it's a whole ass thing. But high S tier for this one. I fell in love with this movie. I love that movie. I own it. This? Nope. Nope, this is I have fallen asleep twice to this one as well. We've tried to watch it. It's terrible. I fall asleep. It's down here with this shit. You notice what's down here? Yeah. Thinner. We actually just watched Thinner. Is it a good movie? God, no. Is it racially insensitive? God, yes, but it is of the time, so you have to learn to deal with that. It does deal with Romanian folk underneath the term that is not PC. Hey, dorky deviant. So, Thinner is also, of course, as you can see, based off Stephen King, about a guy who gets cursed and just is basically wasting away. And he has to try and fix it. Again, it's not the best movie. It's a decent enough adaptation, I suppose, from the book for what it is. But yeah, it's got some hurdles it's got to overcome. But there you go. Tremors, it's one of the sequels. Most of the time sequels are going to be more around the C. I'd probably say it's a high C. Again, Tremors was never one of my favorite movies to begin with. The sequels, obviously, they're like, oh, more worms. I don't remember much about them. They all kind of run together, but I've definitely watched pretty much all of them, I believe. Haven't seen Triangle, haven't seen Trucks. Underworld, I guess they're kind of keeping that in line with Blade. It'll be a B movie. It's instead of, vampires, it's werewolves. And of course, Hat Woman, tight leather. Let's go. Long time. I've been good. I'm trying to get back to trying to do some regular streaming after a couple of years being away. This has been my longest stream to date. For sure. But we've been doing some games as well. Fridays are definitely guarantees after work, and then this weekend might be an exception depending on how Sunday goes because it's Mother's Day. But I'm trying to at least do guarantees on Friday and Sundays if possible, and then during the week if I'm feeling up for it after work, pop it on for a couple hours before I have to go to bed. So, trying to come back. I know it's been a while. So yeah, we're gonna just leave that here. I know some people actually do prefer the sequel over the original, but that's fine. Again, this is my list. Vacancy, haven't seen. Van Helsing, never saw it because I didn't care. Oh, this is probably gonna piss some people off. This is gonna be a low A, but it is A tier for me. I love The Village. A lot of people don't like The Village. I like The Village. It's a Shyamalan film, of course. And I think what pissed people off the most about this movie is the twist, because it winds up it's not what you think it is at all, and it's been misleading the whole time. Does it have some plot holes? Oh, hell yes. It does. But I overall really like the look of the film, the tone of the film, and I do like the color usage in this film. That's a big part of it, and I think it's done very well. So for me, it's a high A. I watched this movie a lot. Again, you're talking to a Shyamalan fan. I will admit Trap was a terrible, terrible movie. Okay? I'm a Shyamalan fan, but I will definitely admit when something he does is bad. Especially now, again, if it's not his original writing where he's doing something pre-existing, I pass those over because I don't give a fuck because he's not as good with that. But if it's his own thing, that's where I'm going to judge. Trap was bad. Yeah, I kind of wanted my time back after watching that one. Let's see. Warlock. Warlock is a very solid, pretty good B. It's one of those that I remember watching on and off when I was younger and finding it, to be at least entertaining. I haven't watched it God, I don't know in how long. But I do remember being entertained, you know? It does have Julian Sands, Rip, in it, which he tries to be good in everything he does, but God help the man, you know, one of the last things he ever did was, uh, Death Rider in the House of Vampires, and Jesus Christ, nobody should have gone out on something like that. I love the Danzig movie, Veronica, but Death Rider, ooh, boy, that one's a rough one. But I would say I remember being entertained by it. So I'm just gonna go with it being kind of mid B. Haven't seen Waxwork. Haven't seen When a Stranger Calls. I've seen The Woman in Black. Again, I think that is probably a very solid B movie. It's not anything spectacular. Again, I don't think it's like it's giving us like an iconic horror villain. It does have what's his name in it? Jesus Christ. Why can I not think of this guy's name? Daniel Radcliffe. Jesus, there we go. You know, it's got him in it doing something different. The premise behind it is kind of interesting. I actually do recommend watching at least the first one. I know there is a sequel. I remember sort of watching the sequel, but lost interest somewhere in the middle and wound up fucking off. But I do recommend watching this one. It's got a really good atmosphere to it. The color scale on it's a little annoying, to be honest. But I would say, I don't want to go too far into it. I would say watch this one if you can. Oh, I just saw what the last one is. I refuse to watch this one. I refuse to watch World War Z. I don't know how or why they decided to bastardize this fucking book the way they did, but fuck them. So I do know that the movie focuses mainly on the Battle of Yonkers, that portion of the book. If you have not read or had the audiobook for World War Z, 100% do recommend it. It is a frequent read for me as well as the Zombie Survival Guide. Max Brooks is a wonderful writer. I recommend reading those. I do also recommend reading his Devolution book. It's a Bigfoot book and it's really good. But World War Z, I talked about this a while back where I was like a zombie hipster, where I was just like, I like zombie stuff, and I liked it before it became popular, and then when it became popular, fuck all y'all. Yeah, that was me. So in college, I was reading World War Z, and people were giving me strange looks. Sorry that they were. So I loved it, and to me, that book would have benefited more from being like a series on HBO. And what you would need to do is take each segment of the book, because of how it's separated out, and dedicate an episode or two as needed to each segment within the book. And there's one chapter in particular that will always and has always stood out to me. And it's the chapter where the author is interviewing a person, or is going to interview a person and they're in a asylum or mental hospital or somewhere for their safety. It's a grown woman, but she or at least a teenager, but I think she's grown. So he wants to talk with her because she is a survivor of one of the known zombie attacks, and she reverts back to a childlike state as she talks about it because of the trauma from it. But basically, it was her and her mom, well, all the moms and the kids in her community were holed up in the church while the men were outside with guns, because there had been word sent there was going to be some zombie issues, right? So, and spoilers, obviously, but you need to read the book. This is only one small chapter out of a bunch of really good chapters, but this is the one that stuck with me, that I'm like, this would have been amazing to have as like a series so that we could experience this. So the interview's done with her recounting the story in a child, like 5-year-old, 6-year-old childlike state. because she uses very simple phrases as she talks about how the pastor's wife, they never had a child, would hug her and she had really big arms because she was heavy. And during the attack, it became apparent that the men couldn't hold off the zombies. So somebody started yelling to um, not let them take the children, which obviously leads to not good things happening. And they started making sure the children couldn't become zombies, or at least not while they were alive. And the girl talks about her friend, something happened to her friend, and then her mom was choking her. And she remembered being rescued by Big Soft Arms, which was the pastor's wife, and was told to run. And she let her go. And she ran. And she survived, but clearly was messed up. And the end of that chapter goes, the reporter, because that's what it's being done as, is a reporter, journalist asks, can she show me? Uh, and you're like, what? What the hell? And the girl looks to the doctor, and she's in a padded quiet room. I forgot to mention that. She's in a quiet room where nobody else can hear her. And the doctor gives her a nod saying it's okay, and she imitates a zombie moan perfectly because it's that etched into her brain from that incident. And it's chilling as fuck when you read it. I'm like, why couldn't we have gotten something like that? But instead, we get these fucking running, jumping zombies in this bullshit. Which, by the way, if you read Max Brooks' movies, zombie books, Survival Guide, and World War Z, those are fucking Romero zombies. They do not run. They do not jump. They do not climb. And there's a whole scientific reason behind it that is discussed in the Zombie Survival Guide and is also touched upon in World War Z. There are reasons behind it and they are stated. How the fuck do you do that? And then even on top of that, it's taking place during the Battle of Yonkers, but you're not actually getting the fucking parts from that Battle of Yonkers that make it so good in the book. You need to read it because it's from the perspective of the military, and it's like, yeah, they have all this high-tech equipment. Like, they try and send off a heat seeker. They're fucking zombies. What are you gonna do? They're dead. They're not hot. And then they talk about, setting them on fire. Well, then you just have flaming zombies walking towards you. They don't stop. They don't give a shit. And it's that realization of you have, the toppest technology available at the time for modern warfare and not a goddamn piece of it works. You know? Yeah, I don't even know why it's named that, but it is. The Home Skillet bought the rights for it and had this movie made, and I refuse to watch it on principle because fuck that shit. Uh, yeah. God, making a bastardization of that book is just criminal. I would love for it to be like a mini series on HBO or something like that. Because give somebody who can get a budget and do it justice. It deserves it. But yeah, some of these I haven't seen. I've seen there's a lot more in this one that I haven't seen, which is interesting. And there's a couple that I refuse to watch, so that's okay. So, like I said, I may have to revoke my horror card a little bit. I don't know, but I feel like solid. This is solid. A lot fewer on the S tier this time. B tier again seems to be overwhelmingly where a lot of stuff will fall because it's at least entertaining, but it's got some problems. You know what I mean? And then, oddly enough, out of all of this, only one is not a remake. I don't know, man. I don't like my remakes. So many of them are just terrible. This remake somehow made it to C, but these were no. Just no. Not doing it. But yeah, that is almost 7 hours of me talking about horror movies I may or may not have seen, and those that I have seen, what do I think of them, sorta, and where do I place them on a list. And I know definitely there's been some arguments. I've had a few people go, what the fuck? That's okay. Y'all can like what y'all like, and I'm gonna like what I like. And that'll be the end of it. So I think that is going to do it for me. My voice is exhausted. I actually need to get at least a couple hours sleep because I gotta do a grocery store run since I'm cooking for mom tomorrow. We also need to finish cleaning up part of the house since they'll be coming over tomorrow. And we just want to make sure it is at least passable, which I mean, it's clean enough, but you know, it's your mother. You're going to be hyper paranoid about everything. It's just how it goes. But thank y'all so much for hanging out and letting me just ramble because like I said I wasn't feeling up for doing video games tonight. But I do want to try and keep on at least semi-consistency with my Fridays and my weekends if I can. With weekdays being oddballs is depending on how I feel after work and this, that, and the other. So I shall go ahead and call it here. Again, thank y'all so much. I appreciate the hangout and letting me do this. As always, y'all the bestest. Y'all stay safe, stay sweet, and I'll talk at y'all later. Bye bye.